Tony Seal. Welcome to the third episode of the podcast, Build Your Business, Change Your Life. This is the podcast of Irresistible Influence Marketing and tonyseel.com. I'm your host, Tony Seal, and today we're going to change gears from the first two episodes. In the first two episodes, I talked about why I'm doing a podcast, why I recommend that you do a podcast for your business, and how you can start podcasting. Today, our topic is one of the most important parts of marketing for any business, and especially for a small business. For a small business, branding is arguably the most important facet of marketing. Branding contributes mightily to what people think about your business. And without good to exceptional branding, it's easy to get lost in the crowd online or elsewhere. In order to stand out, let's talk about branding. With effective branding, your small business can stand out from the crowd and make a favorable impression on your highest potential leads and prospects. So, how can you create the kind of branding for your business that puts your business front of mind for your best potential leads and prospects? Master the elements of branding, and you'll do first-rate branding for your business. There are different opinions on how many elements of branding there are. Are there 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 16? Today, I'm going to focus on 9 of them. The first element of branding is brand identity. It's how people recognize a brand. The elements of this element vary, but they could include the color you use, or colors, typography, design, logo, packaging, and messaging. Do you have a business logo? Do you have a brand color? Do you consistently use the same typography and design? Brand image is how people view, think, or feel about a brand. Brand image is what consumers associate with a brand that is based on interactions with the brand. What is your brand image? Are you well enough known in your niche to have a brand image? The third element is brand positioning. I like the definition that Wikipedia gives for brand positioning. Quote, positioning refers to the place that a brand occupies in the minds of the customers and how it is distinguished from the products of the competitors. Do you have a place in the mind of your customer? How about in the mind of prospects? Brand personality is a fourth element. This has to do with human characteristics or traits that consumers associate with a brand. What kind of personality do consumers associate with your brand? Brand equity is the commercial value of a brand that comes from consumer perceptions of a brand. For example, Rolls-Royce and Chevrolet have much different brand equity. The next element is brand experience. Chris Kavanaugh of the Freeman Company defines brand experience this way. A brand experience is about designing a sensory experience that brings a person into a lasting and meaningful relationship with the brand. That person is your customer. What experience does your customer have with your brand? This concerns your customer service. Even before your customer is a customer, it begins when your customer is still a prospect and leads right up to the sale. This includes your marketing and other interactions between your brand and your customers. The next element is brand differentiation, and this is what makes a brand distinct from competitors. The next element is brand promise. This is what prospects and customers expect from your brand. The final element I'm going to cover today is brand communication. This is the ways that companies and marketers engage consumers with information about their brand. Now let's talk about how we can use these elements to build your brand. Let's start with brand identity. If you don't have a logo, that's the place to start. In your logo, you should have a color or colors that you want to consistently use, or maybe more than one color, that people will associate with your brand. You might want to look into color psychology on this. And then you want to use the same typography and design. In other words, when someone receives something from you, they want to see the same type, they want to see the same design, they want everything consistent. That consistency is going to help you build brand identity. I said before that brand image is how people view, think, or feel about a brand. Your brand image will be affected by your website, your emails. If you do a podcast, it'll be affected by your podcast. It'll be affected by your logo, the consistency of the elements of your branding. Really, every interaction that your customer has with you is going to affect your brand image. Now let's talk about brand positioning. If you have a website, you're using email, you're doing a podcast, you're doing some social media, hopefully all of your marketing is designed to put you top of mind for those who are interested in the kind of products and services that you offer. Remember that brand personality has to do with human characteristics or traits that consumers associate with a brand. What kind of personalities do you think that your prospects and customers associate with your brand? When I think of brand personality, I think of some of the great advertising that's come out of Chicago. The Leo Burnett ad agency was fantastic at creating characters for their clients. For example, they created the Pillsbury Doughboy, Charlie the Tuna for Starkist Tuna. They created the Jolly Green Giant for the Minnesota Valley Canning Company. In the 60s, they created a campaign for the Maytag brand of appliances. The campaign featured a lonely Maytag repairman. He's played by the actor Jesse White. The reason the repairman was lonely was because he didn't have much work to do. The Maytag brand was so reliable. The Leo Burnett ad agencies were great for creating brand personality for their clients. Brand equity, as you recall, is the commercial value of a brand that comes from the consumer perceptions of a brand. For example, I mentioned Rolls-Royce. Obviously, Rolls-Royce sells for a lot more than any Chevrolet. But the same thing happens in many other fields. For example, in your field, are you pitched to sell high-ticket items to... For example, I've done some marketing work for 2 furniture businesses that cater to high-end consumers. Their brand equity is very important to them. They don't want anything that will cheapen their image. And so when I write for them, I have to write with their clients in mind. Let's talk about brand experience. Remember that definition from Chris Kavanaugh. A brand experience is about designing a sensory experience that brings a person into a lasting and meaningful relationship with a brand. Your social media, your email, your web page, your podcast, all the things I mentioned before are forming a brand image in the minds of your audience. But those touch points form the brand experience of those same people. Every interaction that a prospect or customer has with your business contributes to their brand experience. Brand differentiation is something that's essential for all businesses, and part of your branding helps you differentiate your business from your competitors. For example, is your target audience high-end or middle or low in terms of economics? What separates your products and services from your competitors' products and services? What separates your customer service from the service that your prospects might get from one of your competitors? Then there's brand promise. In your marketing, you're making promises to your people. Are you keeping those promises when you deliver your products? In other words, do your products deliver what you promise? And lastly, brand communication. Again, this is all the ways that you communicate to your prospects and your customers. Brand communication has to do with everything you communicate to your customers about your brand. What are you telling them? How are you informing them? What is it that you're saying to those who are following you? Really, today, we've just dipped our toes into a large pool, which is known as branding. I'll cover branding in next week's episode as well. Put a little bit more meat on the bones, as I like to say. You've been listening to Build Your Business, Change Your Life, the podcast of Irresistible Influence Marketing and tonyseel.com. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode and look forward to our next time together.